Hi. So today I want to talk about a slightly more serious topic than I usually talk about, I guess. And that is the recent rise in anti-foreigner sentiment in Japan. Um, you hear about a lot about it in the news and like how a certain percentage of Japanese people don't like that there's more foreigners. It kind of changes depending on the poll that's being taken. And I feel like I have a lot of thoughts about it because I have my experience and then I have what I've read about on the news, and they don't always necessarily they're not always necessarily the same, but let me get into it a bit. So, first of all, I kind of want to say I feel like Japan has always had anti-foreigner sentiment to a degree. Like there's always been a percentage of the population that didn't like there's people who aren't Japanese here, right? And it's kind of something you can't really do anything about. Like these people are going to have their opinions. And not only that, it's like people who are have anti-foreigner sentiment in Japan, they don't outwardly show it here. Like a lot of people I feel like will either just ignore you or be nice to your face, but then maybe anonymously online or something they'll say anti-foreigner things. So I think this sentiment has always been around in the country, as it is in many countries. I mean, every country sort of has its xenophobic aspect, unfortunately. But I think it has been emboldened with, I suppose, the certain political parties in Japan recently. So yeah, I kind of just want to give my thoughts on this. Yeah, like when I started seeing a rise in anti-foreigner sentiment, or at least reports from certain news sources that there was anti-foreigner sentiment, my first thought was this has always been around. This isn't new. Just because it's being reported on doesn't mean it wasn't there before. So what I'm trying to say is first of all, don't freak out because of that, because again, there's always been a subsect of the population here who's just not liked foreigners, and that's there's nothing you can really do about it. Um yeah. But that isn't to say that this increase in anti foreigner sentiment, or at least the increase in perception of it, hasn't changed certain things. Like it has, like, for example, the hike in visa fees that is coming, the hike in I remember what is it, like the startup capital needed for the business manager visa, which is something that I was looking into because I'm kind of interested in running a business in the future, right? Um, it's getting more expensive to be a foreigner in Japan, basically. And I mean, honestly, that sucks. Like, I like that Japan is an affordable country to live in for the most part, even if the salaries are lower than in the West. Like, I like that the cost of living here is not too bad, So, yeah. So, I think there are actual tangible changes. Like, it's not just the news, like, making a big hullabaloo about nothing. But at the same time, I feel like there's always been anti-foreigner sentiment to a degree here. So yeah. Now I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know which way the country's going to go. I'm not, psychic or whatever you call it. So there's no way for me to know that. But I guess I this video is going to be a little bit less structured. I'm sort of just giving my thoughts, right? Like I don't have like a bunch of bullet points that I'm going to put out there. But I guess you're probably asking what can you do about this? What can I do about this? Whether you're foreign in Japan or you're Japanese doesn't really matter. Um, and I feel like mm, I feel like what I feel I feel like one of the things you can do if you want to sort of at least in your local circle um help decrease the anti-foreigner sentiment or try to um would just be to sort of not like you have to put a lot of work into educating people or anything, but like if you hear someone say something that's kind of biased or whatever, it's okay to challenge that like in a polite way, be like, why do you think that, like what kind of proof do you have of that actually being the case, you know? And look, I'm a pussy. Like I'm not exactly practicing what I preach, because like if someone says an offhanded comment about foreigners, I probably just turn my head and let it go, because like I I am terrified of confrontation, you know? So, yeah. But I think especially if there's like someone who you're good friends with, who has, let's say they're a Japanese person who has like some preconceived notions about foreigners, um it might be good to just talk it out and like not necessarily be confrontational, not necessarily be confrontational about it, but just be like, yeah, why do you think that? I mean, like, is there any actual proof of that? Like, or maybe even say like, I haven't experienced that myself, you know? And it's not like that's probably going to change their mind necessarily, but it could open them up to the possibility that maybe what they've read on the news, like, or what they've seen in their whatever echo chamber they may be a part of, it might not be the only narrative. It might not be the truth. It might not be the only thing that's possible to think, right? So, yeah. And I don't know if I have advice about this, like, as a foreigner, what to do to quote unquote prove to yourself that you're worthy to be here. Like, I feel like that's a double edged sword, because, like, again, like people who are biased are going to stick to their biases, and it's not up to you to change them. Like, they have to want to change, you know? Um, but at the same time, I'm wondering, like, is there a way, I don't know, not necessarily to be like a model minority, but just to almost like have your shit together so that when like the people who are prejudiced try and call you out and make up shit about you, you're like, what are you talking about? I'm doing fine. What's your problem? You know what I mean? And I feel like I subconsciously do this. Like, I am, how would I say this? I'm a person who has my shit together for the most part. I'm a very organized person because I have to be, not because I like to be. Um, I pay all my bills on time, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I follow the rules. I've been a rule follower my entire life, sometimes to my detriment. Like, I know I'm a goody two shoes. I know I can be a doormat. I know, I'm aware, you know. It's true. And but I think there is some value in like, especially if you're a foreigner living here, like having your shit together as much as you can, not in order to be a model minority, but just so you're like, yeah, you can say whatever the fuck you want about me. I'm I'm fine. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, so you can keep your opinions to yourself, you know. And this isn't to say that like the average person, like sometimes laws are made, like the law to increase the visa fees is made, and there's nothing we can do about it because it just comes out of nowhere. You know what I mean? And like, I think we have to be prepared for that. Like, that shit is going to happen. But it's also, I think, a matter of not becoming divided up because of it, or blaming other people for it, or like, it's the old saying of like, they want us divided, right? They want us fighting each other so we don't look up, right, and fight them. Like, it's that kind of thing. Like, I feel like the more cohesive both foreigners in Japan, but not only foreigners, also regular Japanese people in Japan are about saying, we're not going to fall for this bullshit. We have just as much a right to be here as anyone, as long as we, you know, follow the law and stuff. Then I think it'll be a lot harder to sow this kind of anti-foreigner sentiment, because we're not looking at each other as the enemy. We're looking, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you've heard this before. I'm sure you've heard this before. Like, it's like, yeah, yeah. And so I think that's really valuable. Even let me talk to Japanese people for a little bit. Like, I think it's valuable to listen to what foreigners are actually saying and not just listen to the news and what it's saying about foreigners, like random foreigners doing stuff that's against the rules, like random anecdotal, you know what I mean, clips, where the vast majority of foreigners really are not doing that. You know, it's good to branch out of your echo chamber, so to speak. It's good to, even if you don't agree with everything you hear, listen to foreigners, and not only gravitate towards um, media sources that are essentially like biased against foreigners from the beginning and think that like if you're Japanese you can do no wrong, which I'm sure those are out there. I don't read them because I don't like to lower my IQ on a regular basis. But yeah, and again, and yeah, if you're a foreigner like me, I'd say don't freak out about this stuff too much. Do what you can to educate people, especially not just like reaching out to them and like if they didn't bring it up first, but like if someone says an offhanded comment that's kind of prejudiced or something, challenge them. Definitely challenge them in a polite way if you have the courage to. I don't know if I even have the courage to. And yeah, keep living your life. Have your shit together. Because it's easy. Mm, it's harder to get to someone when they have their shit together. And if you can always like join an organization to at least raise awareness or to protest some of the new, laws that are being passed. I mean, I probably should do that more honestly. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't think so. My conclusion about this rambly video is I don't think anti foreigner sentiment is new. It didn't just pop out of nowhere. It wouldn't have popped out of nowhere if it didn't already exist. You know what I mean? It's not like, like spontaneous generation can't exist, like a fly can't magically generate from a piece of bread. Anti foreigner sentiment doesn't generate out of nowhere. It was already there, it just wasn't as obvious. Yeah. And because of that, I think it's important to not freak out, do what you can, and don't fall for the trap of fighting other people who really are not your enemy. Yeah, that's all I have to say. And we'll see what happens in the future. I don't know. Um, but in the meantime, keep on keeping on and don't fall for obvious bullshit. And I will see you later. Bye.